sports fans? Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go on a Tuesday live from Denver, Colorado. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us part of your evening. Chase, my partner in crime, joining us here tonight. Chase, there's a lot of activity. I know there was a bunch of activity last week, and we tried to fit something in, but we're on it tonight. And some interesting stuff because we've got some special guests in town now who is looking at Shedeur Sanders. And we don't know exactly what could happen up and in the draft, but I'm excited about this. But we're already around the corner on this. By the way, WNBA draft, what a hit it was. Paige Beckers, Dallas Wings, #1 overall pick. And how about Rory McIlroy finally getting the green jacket in Masters? There was a lot of things all happening all last week.
There is. I mean, I'm excited for like everything that's going to happen over the next 2 weeks. We've got, we're going to be into the heart of, starting to be in the prime of baseball season. By the end of April, beginning of May. And then we've got the NFL draft next Thursday. Cannot wait to see what happens. Bold prediction, I'm predicting 4 trades in the first round.
Hey, you know what? It's going to be pretty spicy because there's going to be teams that are trying to bait other teams to basically, trade up. They could trade up for some of these picks. So, again, it's going to be rather interesting how the night is going to fall. But,
the Panthers already said they're open to trading that pick. Like, they're listening to calls.
So there's already
they're willing to get it. They're willing to trade out of the first round as long as it means acquiring more picks. So, like Cleveland, for example, if they get Travis at 2, they want to trade back in to get Shedeur. If the Browns give up pick 33, pick 67. And maybe a 5th round pick and then a 2nd rounder next year. I'm sure the Panthers will jump on that. They'll gladly give up their 1st round pick to get 3 extra picks.
Oh, 100%. Any team right now that's looking at what they are and exactly with how deep the draft is, they're going to want something like that. So speaking of it, because the one team that has come out here into town, and we'll talk a little bit more about everything else that has also happened all throughout the outside of the week. But the team that actually came into town and that's focused in on Shedeur Sanders was the New York Giants. So this is an interesting thing. So they held a private workout here in Boulder, Colorado, and they wanted to basically see Shedeur Sanders. Now, I know what a lot of people are thinking. They're like, are the Giants actually all in on Shedeur Sanders? I'm here to tell you, and I've heard it from many other sources, they are not. In fact, here's what the Giants are trying to do. And I was also thinking about this once Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston got signed. Why would they end up going and getting a rookie quarterback? Why? Because you have those two. And then on top of it, you got Tommy DeVito. And he's initially your emergency quarterback. So the Giants, and I know Chase will laugh at this, but they're slowly becoming the Cleveland Browns. Okay, they are. Because remember, they have not had a productive quarterback since Eli Manning with passing touchdowns, passing yards, and even if they had Daniel Jones for 6 years, They just couldn't do nothing with it. And what they're doing, and which is why I think this is also smart, because I've said this for a couple teams. If there are teams that are willing to trade, that just tells you their quarterback is not in this draft. It's not. Because next year's draft, there's going to be more in play. Who knows how Drew Aller at Penn State is going to look like? Everybody's unpredictable about Arch Manning, but we know he'll probably finish up the entirety of his college career because that's who the Mannings are. They're very, very big at of collegiate educational success. That's what they're big on. And there's going to be a bunch of other quarterbacks. I even high on what Garrett Nussmeier might actually look like at LSU. But the point of this is the reason the Giants are here is because they are trying to hype up Shedeur Sanders so much that the Giants could trade back that number 3 pick. And why would they do that? Because they know that there's somebody there on the second round that they want. And that's why teams that are desperate for a quarterback that may potentially go and maybe trade up to get one, the Giants want to be that team to trade, get a second round pick, get down into the first round, maybe go at least a little bit lower, and then go and address your needs. What are their needs? Well, they need an offensive line outside of Andrew Thomas because Evan Neal is not panning out. The other thing is, I think they could also go and get a linebacker, maybe in the second round or maybe in the third. But they could also go and get another running back or maybe go and get an offensive weapon. I mean, we talked about Travis Hunter. We talked about Tetairoa McMillan. And we've also talked about Matthew Golden. So there are a bunch of options. And to me, I don't care for Joe Shane, really. But this team knows that they need to strengthen their roster. Look at it. It was not that great. Once injuries started to pile up, they looked bad. And they knew they were bad. Now, on top of, and this is just aside from the Saquon Barkley incident. Okay. We all knew that was going to go down south. And it was not going to work out well for the Giants. But this is your opportunity to shape your roster. You have a quarterback. You actually, not one, you got 2 quarterbacks, I should say, that will buy you time into what next year will be. Because if Garrett Nussmeier's available and you've already got weapons, like with Jalen Hyatt and Malik Neighbors, and you got maybe another potential weapon in this in this NFL draft, then you could shape the offense until that quarterback arrives. That's not a bad guarantee. So I know a lot of people are questioning and wondering, why is Shedeur Sanders being lowballed? Because the only thing that they have on him is he tends to hold the ball for too long. That's the one thing. You do not want to go in and be a high draft pick and then you end up turning out to be a Will Levis. Nobody likes that because we've seen what Will Levis is. Confidence goes down. He holds on to the ball for too long. You become the most sacked quarterback, and it's not good. But again, I just look at this and I think, because the biggest buzz is if you get that second rounder, what I feel, you may actually take an offensive weapon and then maybe you go and draft someone like Kyle McCord in the second round. That's what I could see the Giants maybe potentially doing. So all of this is to really hype up Shedeur Sanders for someone to trade up. That's what this is. It's the name of the game. Nobody likes this, but this is kind of how it all plays out. You're trying to play, the bait game, and you're throwing out the bait all the way out there into the lake. Eventually, one of those fish in the pack is going to bite it. And that's what the Giants are hoping for. So if Brian Daboll is in this room, I can guarantee you he wants an offense. You owe it to Brian Daboll to have an offense after once Saquon left the building. Okay? So if you don't give him a weapon and you don't give him at least a serviceable quarterback, which we know they'll probably ride with Russell Wilson and they'll probably ride with Jameis Winston. But at the end of the day, like, I don't see them maybe going and getting a high talented quarterback other than maybe potentially Kyle McCord. I see them shaping up their roster more than anything else. And there's nothing wrong with that because right now, you look at the Cowboys, you look at Washington, and you look at the Eagles. And the Eagles and Washington have already shaped up the rosters, and they're going to continue to get better. The Cowboys are in a predicament where we got to see what happens with Dak Prescott and also with the rest of that roster. Because if they don't try to build, that's going to be bad news. So that's the part they really got to fix up. So again, this is not any kind of coincidental. GMs will do this. They'll go out and say, okay, we're going to, go and get a private workout and see exactly what Shedeur Sanders is. Whether they take him or they don't. But again, they're going to probably want to trade back, keep the first round, but get a second round in the middle of it. That's what the Giants want. You want to end up adding up, and you want to end up getting something out of this. So, I think it is a smart move. I don't care for Joe Shane. Honestly, I'm more in helping Brian Dable. That's really all I'm about. So if this is all about shaping your roster, then so be it. I like it. Last week, I didn't get a chance to really talk about it, and I was trying to fit a show in last week, and it was unfortunate. It just happened. So last week, wife and I, we went to the Colorado Avalanche and the Vegas Golden Knights game. Vegas Golden Knights lost in the shootout 3-2 against Colorado. That is the round 2 Stanley Cup playoff matchup, and I love it. I love it to death. But I was not expecting the news before that game that Mike Malone got fired. But not only that, Booth, the GM, also got fired on top of that. The NBA is just weird. It's really weird. First of all, Luka Doncic broke the internet the minute that Dallas ended up trading him to the Los Angeles Lakers. And what was that for? Well, because they knew that their viewership was down the drain. They had to figure out some way to get clicks. They had to find some way to get views. And again, the other thing is I think Dallas, in the long run, they're not going to be great. In the short term, maybe for this year, next year, they will be fine. I look at that entire roster, and I think it's built to be a playoff team. I'm not even exaggerating this, because that is just crossing your fingers that Kyrie Irving is fully healthy. Same with Anthony Davis. And you got Daniel Gafford and you got Derek Lively. Okay? So you got pieces. And in the end, Dallas on the long run know that they lost it. And that's why everybody has been all at Nico Harrison because of that. Now, the other thing is that, the Memphis Grizzlies, they fired their coach and they're getting closer up and into the playoffs. I was not expecting the Denver Nuggets to really fire Mike Malone. I thought that was the most ridiculous thing that can happen. Okay. And out here, it was all the buzz talk in Denver. And they are disappointed. They're pissed. And they don't understand why. And what I find, which is interesting to believe, is what we've heard from the ownership, because this is owned by the Cronkies, but it's not Stan who's running the show from here. It's actually his son, Josh Kroenke. Okay. He's the one who basically made that decision. And what ended up happening between the two of them is, number one, Booth ended up front-loading a bunch of contracts, and they are expensive. And it's hard to get away from, especially when you got Michael Porter Jr., that, to be honest with you, is not really moving the needle, and he's not a catalyst for me in Denver. He's not. And, you got Nikola Jokic, and you got Jamal Murray. The other thing is, he was trying to push a lot of the youngsters for them to play. But the thing is Mike Malone is old school. He's all about veterans getting the time, youngsters. You'll mix yourself in, get some shots, get some minutes on the floor, and then find ways to basically either get a defensive stop or you go and get an important shot, whether it's from the perimeter or you're right there up on the wings. Okay, that's really what Mike Malone is all about. It's mixtures of young and old. But remember, the Denver Nuggets were a 4th seed in the West. So for them to fire their coach literally a few games before we're in the playoffs doesn't make any sense. But they're not the only team to have this happen. Okay, just recently, you know that the Phoenix Suns are going to be on their 4th coach now. They've already had 3 coaches in this thing. It's not working in Phoenix. Now they're trying to extend Devin Booker to a 2-year high premium contract. Why do you think the Phoenix Suns were only a one-and-done deal out of the finals? Because of moves like this. And now you're looking at the Denver Nuggets, and you're questioning whether or not if Nikola Jokic is going to stay on this roster. I don't know. I don't have an answer. To be honest with you, I don't think he does. I really don't. Once Mike Malone, the actual catalyst of this entire team, is gone, because coaching is important. And I'm looking around the league. Greg Popovich is going to end up retiring with the San Antonio Spurs. Look at that fit in San Antonio. Think about it. Wemby, De'Aaron Fox. If you're lucky enough, if you get yourself somebody like Cooper Flagg in that lottery draft, oh, good hell. Mike Malone would be the very first phone call I'd make. Not to mention, you got the Philadelphia 76ers. Trade away Joel Embiid. Get somebody who is an adult in this room, because it's not working in Philly at all. Okay, we've been buying into this process for the last, I don't know what, 6-7 years, and it's not working. And Joel Embiid has been nothing but injury prone. We talk so much about Anthony Davis, but yet Joel Embiid showing up late, Mr. Glass himself, and then this whole entire load management started by Kawhi Leonard is ridiculous. And Philly needs something different. So if you get Mike Malone in this building, I guarantee you Philadelphia will be giving such hard fits to the New York Knicks. They would, because the Knicks. Here's another thing: who knows if Tom Thibodeau is even around? Because Tibbs, we know, is very defensive minded, but we know that, to be honest with you, Cat is not really a defensive player. He's very offensive, but you're not going to ask him to go up and under the boards and get you a stop. He might give you a rebound or two, but he's going to be more focused up on offense. That's what you have, like someone like possibly Rudy Gobert for. That's also where you have LeBron for when it comes to defense. Yes, I've said it. Okay. And this is why you have a big. Okay. You go and get stops, you go and get second chance shots, and you find ways to keep possession on your side. So imagine the Knicks and the attitude that they would have with Mike Malone. You don't make this move out of nowhere unless you actually had a logical reason. That's why this is going to be Denver's downfall. Sucks. You know what I thought of? I thought, did the Colorado Rockies owner literally sit in the same room making this decision? Because we all know where the Rockies are going. And by the way, Chris Bryant is back on the IL again. Yeah, once again, with a disc disease. It's ridiculous. I don't get it. I just, if you're not on the standard of the Denver Broncos and maybe potentially the Colorado Avalanche, and I really thought the Nuggets would have been the outlier, but unfortunately, they're not. But you know what's funny is you could bag on Steve Kerr all you want for whatever's going on up in Golden State, but he made a point. This is what happens when you have billion-dollar owners. They don't care what ends up happening if you're bickering back and forth. If you don't see eye to eye and it's not worth their money, they're just going to go, okay, I've heard enough. You both are gone. That's what happened. Josh Kroenke literally pulled the plug on that. Okay, billion-dollar owner. He's sitting up on dad's money because the Rams, the Avs, they're all winning. So I just was in shock and awe. And listen, Booth Booth, I understood getting fired because, look, he front-loaded the contracts. He's literally buying some of these youngsters who aren't even seeing the floor. And then on top of it, Russell Westbrook and like all the rest of this other stuff, there is a reason Booth deserved to be fired. So I don't get it, Chase. And look, I am seeing right now all the other builds. OKC, Cleveland, surprisingly, and, there's a couple teams on the horizon. But I'm telling you, if you get – those are probably my 3 prime teams for Mike Malone. If you put him on the Spurs with Wemby and De'Aaron Fox and you go possibly –
I mean, Cleveland's coach has done good. Like, I don't think that they need coach. But, like, this is a coach that took them to the NBA Finals and
2 years ago. Yes.
Yeah, just 2 years ago. And he won. He won.
You know what's funny is – Look
it's
who else.
So insane to think about.
But this is the thing, is that the NBA, and this is why Steve Kerr made a great point about that, because it's not guaranteed. And everybody, I'm telling you right now, everybody is sitting there questioning, how does Steve Kerr still have a job? How in the world is he surviving this? Because you would think that because Golden State, with how old this roster really is, and yet they find ways to win games. They find ways to get into the playoffs, and yet they don't even get into the finals like they did against Boston. How in the world does Kerr still have a job? Mm-hmm. Okay, and remember, Bob Myers left to go and pursue other things, and now he's alongside with the Washington Commanders with their front office. But you would think with Bob Myers gone, this would have been a complete disaster.
Myers still owns the 76ers, doesn't he?
No, Bob Myers, he was the GM. He was the GM of Golden State. And then he ended up going in with the group along with Josh Harris to be a part of
Josh Harris is the one that owns them.
Yeah, okay. Josh Harris is the one that owns the Sixers.
I was just like, wait a minute, what?
And he's put more money out for the Commanders than he has for the Sixers.
I mean, well, because football is a more demanding money. They're more demanding, but it's also getting more revenue than the NBA.
At least the Commanders, though, they look better. I mean, I've been sitting on this Sixers thing for 7 years. I've seen nothing like this.
Because like nobody's watching the NBA. Everybody's watching the NFL.
Exactly, and
like he's making more money in the NFL because he's got a product that he can put out there that everybody's going to want to watch.
All I know is when I think of coaching. Because the NFL, I mean, they'll fire a coach in the first year. We know that. Mm-hmm. But usually, at least they give coaches grace by like a 3-year period.
2 to 3 years, yep.
2 to 3 years.
Unless it is a situation like what the Saints have, where they have cap hell and a bad quarterback situation. Kellen Moore's probably going to get 4 to 5 years to, figure out what's going to go on because they want to build that roster from the ground up.
Well, but this is the thing. That's possible because we've seen – I mean, I've been harping on Dennis Allen for a long time. Like, I can't trust a coach who's winning 35% of his games.
He's been there, 4 years?
Yeah. Yeah, he was there for a longer time. Once Sean Payton left the building, oh, look how bad that Saints roster really got.
Yeah.
It's horrible. But again, this is why great coaching is important. And so when you let Mike Malone leave the building – what's going to happen with Jokic?
Watch him go to Detroit.
God, and pair up with Cade Cunningham. Oh.
Watch him go to Detroit and turn that organization back into the 03-04 Pistons.
Wow.
That would be insane.
Yeah. I mean, God, wouldn't it be great to have attitude back in Detroit again?
And I've also got some good news that I've been hearing rumors about in the MLB that, me, you, and a few others whose owners don't spend a lot of money may be happy about because, when I talk about it later, it's something that I've been hearing because I know an ex-baseball player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know an ex-baseball player, and he's really tied into all the things MLB, and he talks to a lot of the current players that are going on now. And he's also had talks with a lot of these GMs and owners, and you are going to be shocked from what I'm going to tell you.
Oh, I cannot wait. We'll get that right after the break, and I cannot wait for that. That sounds spicy, but
yeah.
The playoffs are right up around the corner for both hockey and for the NBA. We know the play-in tournament is going to be a lot of fun. And again, we're predicting whether or not does Golden State survive. Does some of these other play-in teams, do they get a chance to get into the playoffs for real? But only place where all of that is happening with many different predictions and betting lines is all through BetUS, your home for playoff bets. Okay? Bet lines from their 30-year award-winning sports book and prop bets to get you on the edge of your game. BetUS has been doing this for a very long time. And not only that, but when you sign up, you get your very own account manager to get the best of what BetUS has to offer for you. And then not to mention, you guys love casino play. I mean, I'm from, Vegas, and we all love our tables. We love our casinos. There's an exclusive casino play when you go on to BetUS, tables, machines, all of that for your very own experience. So check out BetUS for yourselves today. Link in the description. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or Seek Therapy for in your respective states. So BetUS ensures you don't gamble recklessly. Okay, gamble responsibly when you use BetUS. Check out to make sure that the eligibility is around in your state. It may not be in some selective states, but see if it is for you. And it is. Check out BetUS and get on the edge of your game. BetUS, where game begins.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Snake Sports Talk Show is sponsored by Muscle Tech, with hundreds of supplements and vitamins to choose from, all packed with 100% all-natural proven ingredients. You can be sure that Muscle Tech will give you the edge and the boost to train and look like your fit and healthy best, whatever your goals are. Try Muscle Tech today and use promo code SNAKESPORTS to save 30% off your purchases.
Back here on the Snake Sports Talk Show, NFL draft is just cooking. Can't wait for it. But, again, these GMs, and this happens all the time, and what's funny of it is we watched Draft Day. It's a great movie. Kevin Costner, Cleveland Browns. You couldn't have asked for somebody who is so big in sports. And we'd known him for a long time when it came to baseball, but when you come and do football and you look at the NFL draft, now, obviously Hollywood is Hollywood, but the NFL draft, if anybody has even seen it or has ever gone to the draft parties, I've been to at least one of them with a very good close friend of mine. And it was a lot of fun. We were at the Ahern Hotel. And there was already a live streaming party, and it was all Raider fans. and they all lived and breathed and diehard Raiders. Okay. And that was a lot of fun, and so it's a totally different atmosphere because nobody quite knows what could happen in the NFL draft. Nobody does. And so, again, does Shedeur Sanders even become a first rounder? There's 17 players who are going into the NFL draft in round 1, and that's including Cam Ward. Okay, and we already know the hot commodity is Cam Ward. Okay, there's no doubt about it. And at the end of the day, Cam Ward is going to really move a franchise. He's just that talented. You look at Ashton Ginty. You look at the running back class. It is so deep. And then you've got the defensive line. So come Friday, because Thursday we will have a show, and I will have my top 10 NFL draftees. And then by Friday, it'll be the first of 3 full first round mock draft. I did it last year, and it was a lot of fun. And we've actually had a bunch of hits. So I'm curious as to how deep this draft is, but I think there's going to be a lot of surprises. But right now, the team that is really interesting right now that just nothing is going right for them is the Miami Dolphins. And they have the 13th pick in the draft. And what's happening is they are now open to shopping cornerback Jalen Ramsey. Interesting. And they know the cap hit is somewhere above $20 million or so. And then not to mention Tyreek Hill stuff. What a surprise. Ever since that first round exit against the Kansas City Chiefs, the Miami Dolphins are going right back to what they were. Irrelevant. Since Dan Marino, they have had several coaches, several quarterbacks, and several roster changes. Now, you could account and think that that's all on Tom Brady. Well, Brady could be the root cause because it's 20 years of dominance. But I'm looking at Buffalo with Josh Allen. You all thought that the Buffalo Bills were not going to win the division last year. And I called your bluff, and I bought every single one of your stocks. Because Josh Allen is Josh Allen. He's just that talented and good. Okay, you can't deny it. The Miami Dolphins for years. Okay, people loved going to South Beach. I mean, you watch what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are. Okay, it used to be cocktails in the morning when it came to Tampa Bay. And yet, when Tom got there, straightened their act up, got it cleaned up, and now they're actually a very talented team. And look at the success of Baker Mayfield. I know, sometimes can sting Cleveland fans, but listen, I got to be happy for Baker. Tampa really cleaned up their act. And if it wasn't for Tom, you get not only getting a Super Bowl, but build the consistency in the locker room was what was the most important thing. But I look at Miami, and you lost Teron Armstead. You now have Tyreek Hill on his stuff, and they say, we are not going to trade Tyreek Hill. Well, you should. And if I'm the GM, I would have done that. And then you're already shopping Jalen Ramsey. And at the end of the day, is Tua even going to be healthy? You'll have so many question marks, but yet you're stuck on speed. Chase is my witness when I've said this several times. If they do not make the playoffs, Chris Greer, the GM, and Mike McDaniel, I promise you will be fired. Because that's exactly how Stephen Ross was ranked as a A-plus owner. In what world, truthfully? I look at this whole entire incident in South Beach. Oh, well, it's because it's bikini season 24/7. Yeah, well, great. Okay? You'll get yourself a seasonal girlfriend, and then she'll dump your ass by the time that you end up saying, oh, I'm moving to Colorado. Yeah, see you later, schmuck. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. It's seasonal in Miami. also very humid. I mean, I've been there before. But the point is, Miami just looks like a disaster. And Tua's not guaranteed. Mike McDaniel is certainly not guaranteed. And neither should Chris Grier. And yet Chris Grier doesn't want to trade Tyreek Hill after yet another incident. And then going up on the Twitter sphere and basically having you high fives and, waving away. I want to be out of here. I would have gotten rid of that cancer literally months ago. But no, they don't have a backbone. You're stuck in South Beach, warm weather, bikini season. You're all distracted. It happens. But this is why I don't trust the Miami Dolphins. I will trust the Buffalo Bills because at least they're big, they're strong, gritty. They're all about the snow weather. It don't matter. We don't need a dome. We got the snow, and we'll shovel it out, and Josh Allen is pummeling through defenses. And the Miami Dolphins are like, well, it's negative 20, and I'm almost losing my fingertips, and I can't beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Sorry, but this is a disaster. And I'm telling you, watch this completely clean house. I guarantee it, and I put money on it, and Chase is my witness for this. I've been harping on it now for months. I guarantee you, the Miami Dolphins, they will not hesitate to fire their GM and their coach if they do not go to the playoffs. And eventually give Tua Tagovailoa his first playoff win. Chasing the news.
This is the Hot Press.
Look, I have nothing against Miami. I really don't. But, this is just outrageous. I mean, you're not going to trade away a guy who's been a cancer now for the last few months? And
been in the police reports and everything. And
how many kids does he have?
17.
He's got enough to have an offensive roster. So
and defense, almost.
I just don't get it. Look, Chris Grier, what's funny about this is that, I don't pin a lot of the blame on Brian Flores for all this stuff because Brian's the one that did not want Tua in the first place. And I understood why. Every single executive, outside of Chris Grier, they all chose Justin Herbert in that draft class. They all did over Tua. And yet, Chris Grier's like, I don't care. Figure it out. And then they didn't figure it out, and they booted that coach out. Now you got Mike McDaniel, who, no disrespect to, I think he's a very smart offensive mind. But if you've got no backbone and voice in that locker room, people are going to walk all over you. Okay, that's just the reality of it. You got to be able to put your foot down. You got to be able to set the tone in the room, and Miami just don't do that. So who knows how long Stephen Ross is really going to end up having this, around. And again, I was in shock that he even got an A+ grade. To me, personally, I would have given him a C.
Dude, you ain't lying. And one guy I have really high hopes for that I believe could be a fantastic GM for the Miami Dolphins if if they decide to move on from Chris Grier. That's Joe Douglas. You look at all of the picks that he had in the past, going back from 4 drafts to 2020. He drafted guys like Elijah Vera Tucker, Mekhi Becton didn't work out as a tackle, but
Michael Carter, that defensive player, and then not to mention Jermaine Johnson. But yet,
and then he ended up picking Quentin Williams.
Yeah.
Ended up picking the only one that he really majorly missed on was Zach Wilson. Got Garrett Wilson. Ended up getting Sauce Gardner. Picked up C.J. Mosley.
But that's what I'm saying. Amongst 65% of the league who whiff on quarterbacks, so what? You could go draft another one. We know, because again, this is why when we look at this draft, it is not a strong draft on quarterbacks, and we all know that because again, there may be one quarterback and a bunch of projects, and we know that.
There's 2 realistically, but the rest are projects.
Yeah, and it's so pivotal in this league. But teams, 65%.
Yeah, Joe Douglas got wrongfully fired, dude. I think that it should have just been Robert Silva, and that's
because
I do think that Joe Douglas deserves another chance. Like if for some reason whatsoever, if Andrew Barry, like if Kevin and Andrew do bad and they both get fired this next year, I would want Joe Douglas as my GM for the Browns.
Of course. And here's the thing is Stephen Ross, what you got to understand is that we know Miami is such a humid weather, but it's beautiful. It's always 70, 80 degrees up outside. So it's bee season. But at the same time, we know this about certain teams that are always in heated weather. And that even goes for college teams. Okay, I was talking about this earlier when it came to the state of California. And why do you think a lot of the skill players are all going to the SEC and some of them are going to the Big Ten? And it's like you go and get a quarterback from California out of the CIF and you're going to throw him in an atmosphere at like Ann Arbor, Columbus, Happy Valley, and Penn State on a cold weather. It's hard. But that's why you got to build that spine for it. And not a lot of them, they do. So that's why everybody looks around in the regions and they're like, skill player, all right, I'll go right there into the warm weather. Or sometimes I'll go a little bit more into like, Louisiana or so. But offensive line, defensive line, I'm going up north, baby. I'm going all the way up there from like North Dakota to Michigan,
Minnesota,
all those cats. Like, hell, I could even get some up in Iowa. I mean, those corn-fed kids. So, man, you got to have a knack for finding talent.
So let's get to the big piece of news that I've got that's really going to make you and me happy. So
nice.
What does the Cleveland Guardians, Tampa Bay Rays, Oakland Athletics, Vegas Athletics, and the Colorado Rockies all have in common?
Ownership
that does not want to spend money.
Yeah.
From what I am hearing around the league, the MLB players that are a part of those organizations might, and if they do, the entire MLB is going to do it. There will be a lockout again for the MLB because they are saying that these ownerships are going to need to spend some money or there will be another MLB lockout. It's going to happen within the next 5 years if it does not change and they do not start spending money. Because I know that there's a lot of players on the Colorado Rockies that are sick and tired of year in and year out.
Ryan is back on the IL
constantly losing and not being able to make the playoffs. And Rob Manfred, from what I'm hearing, says that if in 2 or 3 years, it does not change, he is going to have a petition signed and he's going to step in and force these ownerships to either sell their teams or spend some money on these players, so that way an MLB lockout doesn't happen. Because I know that a lot of these MLB players are sick and tired of the constant losing.
And see, this is the thing. This is why when the fans on the outside, why would you need to incorporate a salary cap? You are benefiting the owners if you do that. Because by the time that you put in a salary cap, watch that lockout happen so fast. Because now you're making the rich richer by the time you instill a salary cap. And it's like, because the predicament, even with the NBA, I mean, think about this. We got to hold players accountable, especially when it comes to load management. I don't care exactly what you're feeling, but that's why that whole thing with the Mike Malone getting fired up in Denver, I'm like, this is not Paul Westhead that we're dealing with. This is Michael Malone, who 2 years ago got you an NBA championship, and he is well respected in this league. So, again, I think the contracts are outrageous in the NBA, and there's no guarantee whatsoever of moving off of them. But that's why the NFL is so primed for that, because the contracts are reasonable, not to mention GMs, and you've seen them all the time. They will find ways to finagle all of those contracts with contract restrictions, salary retentions if there's trades involved. They'll find ways to move off that contract. And hell, even in hockey, it's not so terrible either. But when you look at Major League Baseball, you have a player that's signed for like 10 plus years. Of course, you're going to be locked into that contract, but it's usually year 4, year 5 when it comes to those no trade clauses, because the first 3 years, that's a full guaranteed lock, and anything can happen within that. But by the time you get into the nitty gritty of that contract, you can move off of it. So what am I focusing on? I'm focusing on my farm system. I'm focusing on what the current players that I have, and I can go into free agency and bolster it even more. So if you put a salary cap on this thing, yeah, good luck. You are doing the owners a favor. You're not doing any justice by holding these owners accountable, and which is why look at Pittsburgh, look at Washington, you look at the A's, you look at a bunch of those teams. Hell, no, I'm telling you, here in Denver, Colorado, nobody wants to spend a single cent on that family business. They made it very clear. But what is the family business going to do? Make the drinks, make the ticket sales, make the concessions cheaper. And that's the only way it's going to silence this whole conversation.
And I believe that it was their father who was in charge in 2007 when they made the World Series.
Yep, it was.
After he died,
now you got the kids.
It went downhill from there.
The same thing.
It went downhill. And the thing is, if Rob Manfred steps in and forces these owners to sell their teams because they are not willing to spend the money, because the reason why is it's not hurting just the revenue of baseball, because it's gonna hurt the viewership. Because a lot of these teams and stuff, like last year was one of the most watched playoff series that we've seen in a long time, because you had teams like the Guardians and the Tigers making it to the ALCS or the ALDS and everything.
You had the prime teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees in the World Series. And I mean, look at how people felt about this past March Madness. Why would you not want to watch Duke and, any of those big programs in the championship?
And just imagine what it would be like if the Rockies or the Athletics or the Pirates spent money to build their teams more. You could see viewership go from here to here in baseball, and it would surpass the NBA, even surpass the NHL, because now you've got these teams that have been like scraping the bottom of the barrel for so long that people would want to watch them. And if Rob Manfred can actually step in and be like, hey, you've got 2 years to build your team up and spend some money, or you are gone. And I'm kicking you out of this league.
You know what's funny about this is because all of the baseball stars are in the right places. That's what we're realizing. Because when you've got Aaron Judge, who also, by the way, he's now going to be participating in the World Baseball Classic in 26. Okay, so that's a huge get. So all that money revenue is going to start to come up because Aaron Judge, big name in New York, Juan Soto, who's there with the Mets up in Queens, and then you got Shohei in Los Angeles. But then you sprinkle in, good God, look at how much small ball the Miami Marlins are playing right now. Like they're playing better than right now what's happening with the Atlanta Braves. It's insane. And
the reason why these small market teams like Cleveland are doing so well is because their president and GM are so good at scouting players and building from their farm systems. Like Chris Antonetti, if it wasn't for Antonetti, we would not be as successful as we are. He hit a gold mine going to get Stephen Vogt to replace Terry Francona. And what does he do? His first year as a manager makes it to the ALCS.
What's funny is, hell, I guarantee you Jim DeCat, who has been a respected GM for 20 years in Major League Baseball, will tell you exactly that.
Yeah.
Look at how many teams that he's ran. And he ran the Orioles, and he ran a part of, the Dodgers for a little bit of time, but he knows. And again, you'll get a lot of those smart-minded people from the scouting room to the GM. All you're asking for is just the ownerships to spend the money. And look, Baltimore, Baltimore was able to get a new ownership. They got more new money in, and now, unfortunately, they're not off to a hot start considering how young and how really good that potential of that roster.
100 games just a few years ago.
That's what I'm saying. So they're off to the slow start for now, but doesn't mean that they won't pick it back up.
They're losing 9-0 to the Guardians right now. So
yeah, I just saw them play the Toronto Blue Jays, and the closer basically blew a kiss to the Orioles.
Yeah. And that's the news that I've got for baseball, and I'm very happy with that, because if they can get Paul Dolan out of the Guardian system, and I would be fine with Jimmy Haslam buying the Guardians. Just
God hell.
Like Do not put him in charge of any of the baseball decisions. Just let him spend the money, because that is a guy who will sign a paycheck on the dotted line and he'll be like, all right, go for it.
What?
Dude, I would love that, because at least we would have an owner that would spend money. We would have somebody that is not afraid to get his checkbook out and say, hey, cool, we want to get Zach Wheeler. All right, let's sign him to a $250 million contract. We want to go out and get Juan Soto. All right, how much is it going to cost? We want to go out and get like a Max Scherzer, even though he's older. Okay, how much? 20 million? Cool, we'll sign him right now. Jimmy Haslam would not be afraid to spend the money to get the guys in here that would take us to the next level to win a championship.
Well, I'm sorry, but you're still sitting here harping about the Cleveland Browns of how long that's going to happen.
Listen,
You can spend the money, but yet if I don't have a Lombardi trophy in that room,
the Guardians aren't that far away. Like, I'm not asking him to make any decisions at all. None. Zero. You just buy the team, sign the checks, done. Let Antonetti run the team. Let Mike Chernoff run the team. You sign the paychecks. They get whatever baseball player they want to bring in here that is going to help the team, whether it's starting pitching, which we need, whether it's a strong bat, which we could use one of those. Doesn't matter. We get them right here. Moving on to topic number 2. I don't think we've ever had this in a college football atmosphere in a long time, where it's so prominent to where a jersey number gets retired for the team that they played for. Shedeur Sanders this weekend got his jersey retired at the Colorado Buffaloes Stadium.
And Travis Hunter. It's funny. I look at this and I'm like, I've looked at the state, like I've honestly looked at the state of the Colorado Buffaloes athletics. And, I just know that they've had a bunch of good players that have come out of that program. I mean, Cordell Stewart was a fun watch quarterback in Colorado. They've even had, a couple of offensive and defensive linemen. I mean, hell, you got Mac McChisney, who's training for offensive and defensive linemen here in where I live at, in Park. So he has his own training facility for a lot of the high school collegiate athletes. But people were like asking me, Jake, is it a little bit premature that Colorado would just retire the jersey just right away? I mean, to be honest, I would have given this puppy at least like 3-4 years.
Yeah.
But because you are already building a dynamic right now with Deion Sanders. You already are. And look, you've heard about the conversation that's going around about Nico, and I'll have a little bit of something to say about that.
That'll be the
last
NIL I got. So
but they have Julian Lewis. Why on earth would they need to do that? You're already. Did you say that they got that one wide receiver, Sincere Brown, from the transfer portal? Dude, I'm telling you, they are building something really, really well. And the only one that's in the transfer portal is that edge rusher. But again, he's probably going to go to an SEC team because they're going to need an edge rusher somewhere. I mean, Georgia could use him at Bama or Tennessee, because all of those, they're all big on edge rushers. They like toughness, and they also like pressures. So Colorado they are slowly building this thing. They have not reached the full potential. Like, give it a few more years. But I feel like right away, I wouldn't have done it. I would have given it at least 3 to 4 years. But you can't mistake of what Shedeur and what Travis Hunter had made impacts in this program. I mean, you're never going to have you're never going to have a freakish athlete like Travis Hunter again.
Yeah, you will, with the with how college or with how ball and stuff like football in general is transitioning and becoming more dynamic. You're seeing two-way athletes like Ohtani, like Travis Hunter. You're going to see that more and more often. It's just a matter of time. But talking about Travis Hunter, that's leading into the next topic. I don't know if you saw today, but this has to be a wake-up call for like the Cleveland Browns, the New York Giants, or the New England Patriots. Whoever gets Travis Hunter, he wants to play both ways in the NFL, and he is going to make that a statement because he said he would rather quit football than play one way in the NFL. And I'm telling you right now, if Cleveland drafts him, let him play both ways. There's nothing wrong with that. He says he can do it. He trusts his body, and I say let it be.
You know, think about this. What happened when Myles Garrett said that he wanted to play for a contender? He got paid, didn't he? I'm going to quit football if I can't play 2A. Okay, there you go. There's a hefty load of money.
He won't get paid for 5 years. What are you talking about?
Sure about that? I mean, look.
You're not going to pay a guy that comes in as a rookie. Okay, let's give you a $200 million contract right here.
Yes, but no, listen, nobody likes this. But that is the nature of the business. It sucks. Okay, I don't like it personally, but I guarantee you that's what some of these GMs will do. You don't think the Giants would literally pay him the amount of money? They will. It's New York. It's the Big Apple. And at the same time, they're trying to find relevancy since Tom Coughlin left.
I mean, but they're a team that needs both corner and wide receiver. Let him play both sides.
Think about it.
What damage is he gonna do? Come on.
All I know is that, again, you could go and try playing both sides, but who makes more of the money? The corner or the receiver?
The receiver.
The receiver does. So, again, you could try to harp on that all you want, but this is the nature of the business. Money talks. Everybody knows it. Because, again, you'd be lying to me if you told me, oh, yeah, I didn't take, X amount of money they were putting on the table and not say, oh, I was thinking it. I mean, dude, you'd be thinking it right there on the top of your mind. If I literally said, hey, Chase, I want you to basically do this for me for an X amount of money, like $15 million, you'd be on it in a heartbeat. I'm telling you, money talks, okay? And Travis Hunter is a very, very explosive player.
I mean, but don't count out the guys that have quit football early because of specific things. Calvin Johnson left in the prime of his career. Andrew Luck left before his prime even began. You had Barry Sanders leave early. Luke Kuechly left the game very early. These guys are not afraid to quit football and go do something else with their life if they don't get if it turns out to be something that they want and it does not happen.
Yeah. But listen, I mean, learn this from Puka Nacua. Keep it to yourself. Nobody needs to know about your future plans. Do you honestly think that I tell my workplace all of my plans? No, because you look, and you know what? Howard said this best. Okay.
Oh, I don't listen to Cowturd. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
No. Listen. Okay. Nobody gives a rip about all of that. And listen, jobs don't care about work-life balance. You know what they want? They want a guy that shows up every single day, 110%, doing the work, and they don't care about what your plans are, okay? Because you know what's funny is he had a situation where he had a friend of his where he was like, listen, don't mention about it. And he was like, well, why is that? And he's like, because that's all we talk about on our senior advisory meetings. Keep that to yourself, okay? And that's why Puka, because you really think that the Rams right now are literally catered to Puka Nacua? They are literally thinking about 7 years down the road of their next draft picks. That's how these GMs work. They're like, I'm going to retire up at 30. Okay, who do we need to look for in the next 3 years? We already have that lined up, ... Dude, they already know about some of these kids by the time that they're in high school. And then they go up and they go into the college level. They still are scouting them. And then eventually when they come into the NFL draft, I guarantee you that they will pick them. If you don't think the Rams literally next year or the year after, they're going to think about a wide receiver,
Maybe.
they will. I mean, they're already making future plans for Matt Stafford.
Well, yeah, he's 38 years old.
But that's the thing.
Like he's not 23.
They have a plan.
Like,
they have a plan.
He's 38, dude. Of course you're gonna have a backup plan for quarterback. Like that would be like, oh, Jake's going out the pasture. We need to find the replacement for him. Like, come on. Well, he's the horse that's broken down and can't pull the sled no more. Let's go get a younger horse in there that's got the horsepower.
Well, you know what? Just go ahead and stick another horse tranquilizer. I'll be fine for the next few years until I'm literally sitting on the ground. Okay, but that's what I'm saying is that they have a plan. It doesn't matter what age that you are. They have a plan, and they do not. I'm telling you now, I very much agree to this. They do not care what yours or my plans are, because only you and I individually know what our plans are, because we can change them at any time. Now, of course, I leave it up to the man upstairs because he paves the way, but I've got a 10-year plan. Like, I'm renting right now. I'm not going to buy a house until all of a sudden that market takes a dump. That's part of my plan.
I mean, who knows when that'll happen. Anyway, let's move on to the last topic that I've got. And Jake mentioned it earlier. It's about Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah.
He wanted $4 million from Tennessee Volunteers to keep playing there. He was not worth the money because obviously we've seen that his production and his stats did not line up. And he had one of the better Tennessee teams that we've seen in a long time. And Tennessee's just like, screw you, we'll go in a different direction. Now, a team like North Carolina with Bill Belichick said, we don't even want him. So now he's looking at Buffalo, USC, and UCLA as the three options to go to. And out of those three, the best one that he could go to, USC, and play with Lincoln Riley, because Lincoln Riley is the guy that can get Nico to where, he wants to be a first-round draft pick.
Well, yeah, he'll work on his mechanics, and I don't doubt that at all. But here's the thing. I'm not surprised that Tennessee, North Carolina, and I'm very sure Deion Sanders is going to honestly all say the same thing. Because you know what that means? That means you care about the money than you care about football.
Yep.
Sorry, but here's the thing. This kid is a freshman. Okay, it's like you telling me, like, you literally started the first week up on the show and say, hey, Jake, I want a pay raise. And I'm like, I just hired you a week ago. If you're already talking about pay raise, go screw yourself. I'm going to find the next one. It's because you're stepping up on the boundaries and making it think like, oh, you are this hot commodity. I hate to get it like this, but it sounds to me like somebody's throwing the entitlement card. I don't mess with that. Neither does Belichick, neither does Josh Heupel, and neither does Deion Sanders. Okay? Yeah. So you may be a talented quarterback, but I guarantee you if you're going to USC, that's fine if you're going to have your mechanics fixed by Lincoln Riley, who's the offensive guru of it all. But good luck. Good luck winning a bowl game. Good luck if at least getting into the playoffs. Because
I said 3 first-round quarterbacks, but like that, you're not going to do anything.
But look, that's all like past. Like by the time you get past college. But what we're saying is that you look at a lot of these power schools. Okay, your Alabamas, your LSU's, your Michigans and Ohio States and a lot of the other ones. What do they all have up in common? They at least, and we have yet to see from Bama, but they all are real about how they shape their roster construction, not to mention the recruitments and transfer portals, because I guarantee you that, because here's the thing. Ole Miss spent a lot of money, okay? Outside of Ohio State, Ole Miss spent a lot of money. Yeah, where'd that get them? Nowhere in the playoffs. It got them nowhere. Okay, and so trying to spend all this money is never going to equal you getting into a playoff berth, let alone a national title. Okay, Ohio State is the exception of it, but look at how big their brand is. I mean, I'm telling you, give college basketball 3 more years of this thing and watch how many times you see a lot of these big namers go to big name schools because we get a chance to hear about them. We get a chance to get to know them. I mean,
also with Ohio State though, they had the experience come back. Like
that's the thing.
You had so much experience in like Buka, Sawyer, Tuamoloau, Simon. Like all of these guys came back for their
Caleb
final
Downs.
years.
I mean, he had his experience up in Alabama, and once Saban retired, I'm going to Ohio State. And then all of a sudden, you then introduce one of the most freakish athletes in Jeremiah Smith. So that's the thing. Big programs will continue to get bigger. Get over it. I'm sorry with a lot of these Cinderella stories, and I'm sorry that the shoe don't fit on midnight. Okay, but you got to get better with your recruitment. You got to get better with your coaching staff. And what that told you, because here's the thing. Tennessee hasn't even gotten themselves a national title since the 90s. Okay, and that's what I'm saying. So they have had all these years tried to drop the ball, but he's not that talented than Joe Milton. I've watched him in college, and I'm like, Nico's only a freshman. Okay,
he's a sophomore because he'll be eligible for the draft next year.
He'll be a sophomore, but again, he's got the freshman mentality.
Yeah,
that's why I'm like, no. And you know what's funny is, you know who influenced him to literally do that? His agent. His dad. Okay, why do you think that would be? You know, that's why I want to save a separate segment up on this one, because this is why I hold parents accountable. Or a lot of that. I do. And I will tell you why. So, is that all the news that we got?
That is.
All right. Perfect. Chase with the news.
This is the hot press.
Okay, so here's the spotlight. All right. I'm not quite a parent yet, but my wife and we've had talks, and we're in the processes of starting our family. But I come from an old school household, and I'm sure Chase has also come from a different upbringing than I have. But here's the deal. Everybody's talking about, the state of the NIL, how it's ruining college sports. Is it? Or is it because when you talk about money and you talk about guarantees and you talk about all of this, I mean, agents are going to do their job. That's what they're paid to do. Okay? They're paid to expose, they're paid to promote, and they're paid to basically give you the best guarantees. That's the NIL. Could you imagine if Johnny Manziel was in this timeline when the NIL came out? He would have never have needed to go to the NFL. He would have been the richest college player that we've ever seen. And you know who took advantage of that? Texas A&M. Why do you think Kyle Field literally looks that good at College Station in Texas? Yeah. They did not even compensate Johnny Manziel at all for that. And then here's another thing. Reggie Bush had his Heisman taken away because of grades. And yet, he would have made so much money with his NIL deal. At college football, like the NCAA would look ridiculous. And they did. They awarded him back the Heisman Trophy and literally said, go screw yourself. I deserved it. Okay, I got my education elsewhere. So the bottom line is, when I heard about this with Nico, okay, and a lot of this was influenced by his family, by his dad. And you know what's crazy about this? And this is no surprise to me because I've seen this before. Okay. Wherever your upbringing is and wherever your circle you surround yourself with is going to determine your character. It is. And here's the other thing. Because look at John Morant, for example. John Morant is so talented, but yet is trying to pose himself as somebody that he's not. Okay? With firearm flashes, with, all this stuff, all because his dad can't get a grip. Okay? And by the way, he didn't come from a bad upbringing. He didn't. He had a lot of people that influenced him to do better, but yet he has that little voice in his head that's literally trying to make him like this. Don't. Just be yourself. Okay, and you are paid so much to start antics like that. You are an athlete. You're an NBA athlete. Nico, the thing about him is, although I do think he's a talented quarterback, but to me, I don't like the character. Because at the end of the day, if you're being influenced by your family for this, well, your family needs to parent better. Sorry. I know it might burst a lot of families, right? Like their bubbles right now, but it's a whole ladder. Because to understand a kid's character, I have to look at by their environment. I look at by their parenting shapes, like I do. In order for me to determine that kid's going to succeed. So Nico asking for that much amount, I don't blame Tennessee for that. Because what that's saying is you're more fixated on the money than you are football. And that's what Josh Heupel was literally saying. Okay, you could go ahead and get your money. I don't care. I guarantee you if Nico said that to Nick Saban up in Alabama, you know what Saban would do? Get the hell out of my office. It's the same thing Urban Meyer would do if he was either up in Florida or Ohio State. You're not fooling these coaches. Okay, these coaches are not there to basically cater to what your asking price you think you're worth. That's entitlement crap. Which is why, like, when I think about this with as far as directions for a lot of our youths in this generation, like, all they're asking for is at least for somebody to put their arms around them and guide them, help them, mentor them. Not ask for like all of this because why? Because somebody else's problems is now becoming your screw that. You're adults. Figure it out. I harp on this a lot, and I may be 30 years old, but here's the thing. I'm continuously trying to figure it out. Doesn't mean that I'm going to throw in the white towel. I mean, I would ask Chase to smack me in the face if I literally said, yeah, you know what? This just ain't for me. I'm looking for something a little bit more bigger. And Chase will be like, get over yourself. Figure it out. Because that's the right thing to do. You figure it out. And for Nico, I mean, Colorado, I never understood that because Colorado already has a recruit in Julian Lewis. Okay? So you would be stunning another quarterback's growth if you basically put Nico in that room. You would. The other thing is when you look at UCLA and you look at USC, you could be built and developed. Okay, if you go to Lincoln Riley, he'll shape you up of your skill sets. But when you get into the NFL and you think that like you're the baddest of them all, you ain't seen nothing yet. I'd be like this. You ever heard of a guy named Arch Manning? You ever heard of a guy named Garrett Nussmeier? You ever heard of a guy named Lenore Sellers? Yeah. Guys, here's the thing. Think about some of these quarterbacks that had these upbringings. Andrew Luck. He wasn't in a big school like Alabama or LSU or Tennessee. You know what he went to? He went to a tech school at Stanford and was the #1 overall pick. Why? Because he was a highly rated quarterback prospect. They didn't care about where he went to school at. They were like, you have got to get on. You got to get this kid. This kid is the future. Did anybody pay attention to videotape on Josh Allen at Wyoming? Of course you didn't. Because you didn't care about Wyoming. And you would have never have known about Josh Allen being this good unless you actually seen what his career walk was. Okay? Patrick Mahomes didn't even win in college at Texas Tech. And yet he's winning Super Bowls in Kansas City. Why? Because all it takes is better coaching and at the same time, better development because I've lived on this. I was not built for the high school life. I was built for the life after. That's college, degree, better job opportunities. And then at the same time, it also shapes your character. People, you attract people that basically want your type of aura. Okay? Whether you find the love of your life, whether you find your best man for 10 years, whether you find, your group, whatever it may be, sports, athletics, or whatnot, you find your niche. But all I know is that honestly, if it were up to me and it came to Nico, I would have literally told him, you got to do better by you, not be influenced by, what your family believes that you should. Because here's the thing. I was raised to where my family, even though I've got a place, they told me not to go backwards in life. They said, son, don't go backwards. I understood what they said. They said, don't stop trying. No matter how many times you scrape your knees on the ground, you'll literally get cuts, bruises, teardrops. Keep going. Don't go backwards. And that's the one thing is I look at a lot of these kids. They need to be mentored better. We need to be better at our parenting. I'm not going to tell you how to parent. But what I will tell you is that if you do not pave a way for a better future for your kids, you are going to see the chain continuously build from your character. It becomes a mirroring reflection. That's why I'm like, Nico, what are you doing? You got a great thing going for you in the SEC. Tennessee that hasn't won a national title since the 90s. You got a great thing going for Josh Heupel. I mean, people have been harping about how good of a coach that he is outside of Kurt Signetti and outside of a lot of these other coaches up and coming. What are you doing? But listen, if you want to work on your own craft and go to USC and be a top-rated pick, that's fine. But all I know is that it's not going to guarantee you championships. It won't. It'll just guarantee you'll earn money, you'll earn wages, you'll have all this stuff, but yet it's not going to bring you happiness because you don't have a title. Different feeling. It is. You got to reach for the higher successes. But listen, that's why Mahomes and Andrew Luck, hell, even when you look at John Elway, no matter how many times people have said he was overrated, he was by far the top college prospect out of Stanford as well. Yeah. He didn't want to go to the Colts because he knew how dysfunctional they were. So he went to Denver. I mean, where you land matters, but also where you are also matters. So, and again, if you go to UCLA, I mean, good luck being relevant. And I think the whole thing of it is because what it's going to draw is it's going to draw more ticket sales. It's going to draw more attraction. Why? Because he's Polynesian. And that whole entire region right there on the island is all West Coast. You don't think they wouldn't come out to UCLA? They will. They'll make the trip. That's the only thing that UCLA is going to benefit off of. Same thing with USC. But Colorado, don't need it. Tennessee, they don't need it. And you know what's funny? Okay. So I actually have a side comment from here. So Lincoln Riley did the right thing. USC is out. And you know what's funny? All the teams. He's up on mute. All the teams.
If that's true, that's what I said. If that's actually true that USC is out on him.
So all the teams, they are interested only offering him $1 million. What does that tell you?
And look at all the big name teams too. Notre Dame's got their quarterback. LSU's got theirs. Alabama's got theirs with the new guy that they got coming in, who's the number 2 quarterback in the class.
You don't hear a peep from them.
No.
You're over here asking for more money.
Tulane even closed the door. Yeah, UCLA is the only option for him right now.
This is why This is why I said, why ruin something that's so good? You are going to be a sophomore. You're in the SEC, the most well-respected conference in college football. Okay? In a program like Josh Heupel, who's very respected. I mean, listen, everybody says what they want to about him and James Franklin and a lot of these other. I mean, come on. That's exactly the comment. This is literally backfiring at him. You know what he's doing? He's getting a taste of reality.
Yeah. And he'll be lucky to get a chance at a starting position next year. Because, like, imagine if he goes to, South Carolina with Norris Sellers. He's got Aaron Nolan that's right behind him. Imagine if he goes to, Ohio State. He's got Julian Sayin and Tavian St. Clair ahead of him.
Alabama, they got Ty Simpson and they got a couple of other quarterbacks up.
Who's the new one that they just got? What was his name? Keon or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And, like, oh my gosh, it's insane just to think about, because now you've got, like, all of these big name programs are out on him. And, like, LSU's got Garrett Nussmeier, so they're not even going to get him. The only big name school I could see probably taking a chance on him is Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah. And then what's that going to do for you? I mean, I watched Lane Kiffin, and all that money spent in the transfer portal, yeah, I didn't give him a playoff. So
Texas A&M might even take a chance at him, but
in Texas A&M, I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting from there. But
yeah, who knows what's going to happen? He was projected to be a first-round quarterback next year and be one of the top quarterback recruits in this draft class, in this next draft class. Now, who knows if he's even going to go in the second round?
And he's already built the relationships that he had there in Tennessee. So why screw that up? Because initially, you would have had a better offensive in front of you. Yeah, you'd be losing Dylan Sampson. Yeah, you'd be losing, a couple other players, but then you'd be getting back more. I don't get it. Either. And look, it's not like Tennessee is not going to find a quarterback.
No, they definitely will.
I just think it was outrageous. But something had to be said because, again, I've heard this several times, and I continuously, grind my teeth every time when I hear where they're like, that's not fair. Well, you know what? So is life. Get over it. Throw some dirt on that wound. Okay? Keep going. Because you know what? I wasn't born yesterday. Okay?
That is the main question. Where's Nico going to play in 2026?
I mean,
or 2025 this year, but yeah.
He would have never put himself in this predicament had he not done that.
Mm-hmm.
But now
he might not even be a first round pick next year because nobody's going to want to deal with his camp, with his parents, or anything like that.
Unless he's lucky enough that he goes somewhere that's really going to shape it up. But that's why you need to have the right mentors in your life.
Yep.
Whether that be a parent figure, whether that be a coach, whether that be a teacher, whether that be somebody there. But this is why these youngsters in this generation, that's what they're seeking. And when you give them something like that, and again, I would pin that on the dad because seriously, why? I thought the whole point of it was you want the best future for your kid. Like that. Like, why do you think, or so talented John Morant is, why do you think that he's wilding out so much? It's all because of that one person.
You know what? I could see Miami trying to be in on him because now with Carson Beck transferring out of Miami, they need a quarterback, and there's nobody else out there that's going to be available that's pretty decent. So I'm pairing him with Mario Cristobal. I could see that happening.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. No matter what quarterback you have, I look at that state of that defense, and it is not good.
Nope.
Why do you think I told you that when it came to Cam Ward? Cam Ward is the only Achilles heel and saving grace for Miami's program because that defense was atrocious, and yet they lost to Syracuse and Kyle McCord.
And they scored 38 points that game too because of freaking Ward. Like he had 326 yards and 3 TDs.
That's what I'm saying. Unbelievable. This was great energy today, but
dude, it was.
Yeah. But look, I wanted to take a second at least, for 5 minutes. But honestly, like I am very grateful for the circle that I have of many people that have been in the sports community, and especially introducing Chase into the sports industry himself as well. And so for having him as a co-host, I'm more than grateful, and especially with how far that the show has gone. 5 years ago, and many people that have known on my walk through life, I had a niche for sports. So initially, when I started this show and where it is today, it was not like what it was back then. It was actually a small Instagram page, and I had a little bit of, kind of some journalism type of thing where I would take posts, post up the news, and then I would have like a separate segment of like how I felt about hires, fires, signings, trades, all that stuff. It's journalism 101. But when I moved out and I went into my own place, I started to now get into audio podcasting. So I started to grow even further because I wanted to expand my reach. I wanted to reach my audience and see exactly where I could get at up on my show. Well, it wasn't until 5 years ago I stumbled upon somebody who commented on my post, and we went back and forth when it came to, kind of understanding each other's sports mind and really breaking down that news segment. And I was invited. I was invited to a live stream. Now, granted, I didn't even know what the hell a live stream was. Seriously, I didn't have a camera. All I had was a microphone. You can only hear my voice. And, for most of you for dealing with my voice for 5 years, kudos to every single one of you. Because sometimes I talk my ear off and I don't even understand why I still keep talking. Okay, so I give you kudos for 5 years hanging around with me. But anyway, I was invited for an interview. And from that day on, really spoke a lot of volumes. So, Darian Hopkins, who was the originator of Spotlight Sports Network that started the whole entire thing, and what was also a key part of this show's success. I had gotten the news yesterday that he unfortunately had passed away at the age of 39. So subtly, I was not even expecting the news early on in the morning when I'm getting ready for work and I'm about to walk out the door, and just so happens I get the phone text message and saying that he passed. Darian and I have gone way back. And the state of what the show was and where we began at Spotlight Sports Network, he loved every part of my show and felt like I had a niche and took a chance on me. So he recruited me. And ever since that point on, for like a good solid 3 years, close to 4, we had a great run. We actually had dealt with a partnership to where we had the best minds in the sports industry that was a part of Spotlight Sports Network. And we were also had many memories from the time of where we've done wrestling live streams and play-by-play live streams to being granted the opportunity of media accesses, of asking questions to the players during Super Bowl 56. It was such an amazing ride. And I never would have been able to, stumble upon so many great voices, so many great like-minded people in the sports industry had it not been for him. And there's a lot of people I can name off of. Hammer's House, Graphic Raider, Law Nation, multiple people within the sports industry who have all known about him. And it's very sad to see him gone from this earth at an age of 39. Had dealt with health problems, and eventually it took him, and it took him too young. But the things that I will say is, no matter what you were going through, whether it was life, whether it was you were just challenged because how dog eat dog this sports industry can get you in, he wasn't leaving your side. He was always pumping you up. He was always making you laugh, and always had a kind of motivational type of word that would stick with you forever. And so I will basically say this in tribute to Darian Hopkins. Darian, I will forever be grateful for what you've done for me in my walk of life and where I am, and especially with what you've done for me in my journey through my dream career in the sports industry, and making what the Snake Sports Talk Show more than where it started. And because of you, the outreaches and the audiences and the growth of what the show has had is because of your influence. And it was because of you taking a chance and investing in me. So I say this to my mentor, to my once business partner, but most of all, a great friend. All of us in the sports industry, you will be missed greatly by many people, and the influence that you have had with many of them. I would have never have been able to get into many of these circles without you. You are the reason this show itself stands strong. You were the reason that our network in the past was successful and brought in a lot of great minds. I mean, business decisions aside, we had an amazing run. And every episode that I come up on, you will always be thought about, and you are in all of our hearts. So Darian Hopkins, my mentor, my partner, my great friend, may you rest in paradise, and we will see you again when the time comes. Thank you for everything that you've left in this industry and influenced many great minds, many great faces, and building their career paths as well. Thank you for everything that you've done, and we will miss you. It was just shocking to me. And I will tell you, Chase, like, this show would have never have blown up as big as it was without him taking a chance. Yeah. I mean, if you could only imagine how Spotlight Sports Network was about at that time. Like, we had such an amazing run. And I mean, it was to the point where there were times where people felt low and we talked about life. Or there was a time where his antics were any time that I would call it and he was like, "What in the hell do you watch?" Just so jokingly, because there was always something on my mind. Or even at the time when he broke down the top 100 NFL players, and the very memorable quote that he made when breaking it down was, "Who the hell is Fred Warner?" We didn't even know who Fred Warner was, at the time. And the way he reacted was priceless.
One of the top linebackers in the league now.
Oh, my God. I'm telling you, if we would have made a T-shirt with that quote on it and given it to Fred Warner, how much you would have bet he would have worn that T-shirt and posted it? Like, it would have gone viral, because just from the moment it was like, it was clear. It was insane. But I will say, because the sports industry has introduced me to so many great like-minded people, which is why that, a lot of people have said, hey, we're the new media, because when you watch ESPN or Fox Sports or anywhere else that you watch these analysts and all these people that you don't care for sometimes, usually you'll find a lot of these like-minded people in all of these smaller places, like even on social media. I mean, you'll know the difference between, like we talk about it all the time. I mean, we stumbled upon from TikTok, but you'll find TikTok-minded people, and then you'll actually find sports like-minded people. That's the difference.
Yep.
And that's why, I take everything that he's taught me and showed me the way to where I had started my own network. I have brought a lot of people that I was familiar with Spotlight Sports Network, and many more new faces who can make the network successful. And it was all because of him laying a mark on all of us to, build that. And I still come across many like-minded people. And I always try to mentor them the best way possible to find their path. Because the sports industry is not easy. You have got to be at the top of your A game, and it's so time consuming. But people that have a spine and a stomach for it, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm like, I will never stop until I see the light at the end of the tunnel with this. And I will say, I have been very grateful for the people I've had in my circle, the people that I have had, and even with the co-hosts I've had, because Chase, you are the fourth co-host I've had on this show, and I've been more than grateful. And then at the same time, the audience, many of the people that this show has reached, I'm grateful for every single one of them. I don't strive for numbers. I don't strive for financial stuff. I strive for quality, entertaining content that is so, it draws you to a phone. It draws you to a television. You can't get enough of it. But that's all I care about, is because there's always something going on, but it takes the right mind and the right voice to really speak it out.
What other show would talk shit about Ryan Day all the time?
Or, you talk about what's going on with Jimmy Haslam in Cleveland.
Or just talking about, a dead horse out to pasture. So
or have the most have the great hot takes. Like I've told you when it came to, New England and Pittsburgh, and then you gave me one and I was just literally jaw-dropped. What other show's going to give you that? But then at the same time, it comes from the mentors that I've had, in my life, and he was one of them. And so it really holds an importance for me, and especially on this show. And that's why that I would carry this for as long as I can to the end of my days, and however long that the show goes around, because I know that I will always remember where I started, and it was very impactful for me. So, but it has very much grown in bigger lengths of where it is. So I'm beyond grateful. I'm beyond grateful. But yeah, heartbreaking. But
yeah,
we carry it on.
Absolutely. Keep the legacy going.
Exactly. But I appreciate everyone and people that have known him and people that have followed, this show for a long time. It was independent, then Spotlight Sports Network, and then Sports Empire and Sports Wave, and then being on Rogue Media. every single journey, like every single moment through this journey has been amazing. And it is very much gifted me very well. And I'm forever grateful for that. So, and we keep going because there ain't no stopping this show. There's always something to talk about. And, I'm always excited for the future itself. But as long as Chase and I have the lights on, this show ain't stopping. So,
nope.
Appreciate everyone for joining me here. Very heartfelt moment at the end of the show, but got a lot of stuff to talk about. But top 10 draftees Thursday. You'll be surprised of who I've got up on my top 10s because these are some guys I'm excited to watch come into the league. And then Friday,
mock draft 1.0.
Very first mock draft. Yes, I'm excited about this one.
And keep it tuned in because we are going to go back and forth like we did earlier when we did a top 10 mock draft. We're doing the full first round mock. Jake is going to do pick 1. I will do pick 2. He'll do 3. I'll do 4. So on and so forth, all the way up until pick 32. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss it, and you do not want to miss the shocking selections that we may have in the top 10.
Oh, it's going to take everybody by surprise. Well, I'm excited about it. Take care of yourselves, everybody. We will see you on the next episode of the Snake Sports Talk Show. Have a great night, and we'll see you guys later, folks.